NextGenWeb recently caught up with Congressman Zack in his Washington office to talk about the RUS Broadband Loan Program. Space represents Ohio's 18th district, a largely rural area east of Columbus. Given his constituency, it's no surprise that when the House looked at the Rural Utilities Service Broadband Program in this year's Farm Bill, Congressman Space had a lot to say.
My district is a rural district. It's a large geographic district, and obviously because of the terrain and the sparse nature of the population as it's dispersed throughout the district, it becomes very expensive and in many ways not affordable or productive to extend service on behalf of telecommunication carriers into those areas. So clearly rural America generally, and certainly southeastern Ohio, are at a disadvantage in getting access to broadband. What we're hoping to do through the RUS loan program is to make it more accessible. It's been there for a while, but what we're hearing from telecommunication companies is that the application process is cumbersome and some of the loan provisions themselves make it so that it's not feasible. So what we've done is we've introduced legislation that's a part of this Farm Bill that will cut down on the paperwork, that will clean that end up. The application process should be made more efficient and user-friendly. In addition to that, we're also going to have provisions in the program itself that will require less equity up front at the discretion of the Secretary in cases that he deems fit than what had previously been required. And we've extended the amortization period up to 35 years, which is a significant change from before. That will allow for lower monthly payments and make it for a more feasible process. The end result is that we hope that telecommunication companies will find investing in infrastructure, the broadband infrastructure in rural areas, a more feasible, productive endeavor, and we're confident that this amendment will go a long way in enhancing and increasing access in those areas where it's so important. This is designed to make for a more user-friendly system, and what this legislation will do is make it more attractive for telecommunication companies to enter into rural southeastern Ohio, rural America, and again that will help enhance the access for my constituents and those who live in rural areas of the country. Well, clearly, broadband is not a passing fad. We have already fallen behind the rest of the country. The challenge in accessing broadband applies to the so-called last mile, the last 2 or 3% of the population. Almost invariably, that 2 or 3% is in rural America. So what this is meant to do is to provide us with those tools. And it largely is an economic issue. If you're a manufacturing plant thinking about expanding and you're in southeastern Ohio, you're going to think twice if you don't have access to broadband. If you're a company looking to locate a facility somewhere, one of the first things you're going to look to is the access and the quality of broadband in the locations that you're looking. So you're going to automatically take an area off the list if it doesn't have access. Clearly there are significant economic benefits to the people of rural America to have broadband access. But it goes beyond economic benefits. We view it as a quality of life issue because of the benefits associated with telemedicine. It's a healthcare issue. With the benefits associated with distance learning, it's an educational issue. It's a security issue with respect to coordinating first responders in a given area. So again, the longer it takes for us to provide 100% access in our areas of the world, the farther behind we're going to fall. So we simply need to move ahead as a top priority. I liken this to the rural electrification that this country undertook in the 1930s. It's that important. There are a lot of legislators talking about this right now. One of the impediments to accessing broadband for everyone is the lack of an effective mapping system. Many areas of the country have some broadband, but it's not. In my district, for example, virtually every county that I represent 16 counties, has some form of broadband access somewhere. But there are many pockets within those counties that don't have it, and there is no clearly identifiable database that I can turn to, that a telecommunication company can turn to, that local officials can turn to, that can identify where we have it and where we don't, and where the types of access we have in given areas. And I think that our government can do more in taking a leadership role in identifying those locations where it is and where it's not. I think it's been helpful, but I think we can do more. I've come to the conclusion that we're going to accomplish the goal of providing universal access only through an aggressive partnership relationship between private sector and the government. And certainly we can do much more. And it's a combination of participation by governmental entities at the federal level, the state level, even the local level, working with telecommunication companies. One of the things we've done back in Ohio's 18th District is we've created a broadband task force. And on that task force, we've got representation from the public sector through various county and city elected officials. We've got representation through the private sector, businesses and individuals, and we've got representation also through the private sector with the telecommunications company. I'm absolutely convinced that we can achieve our goal of universal access, but only if we all work together. And that's our objective as we move forward. We're going to incentivize this process to make sure it gets done properly.